If you're looking to work out and support a great cause, Fit for Duty is for you. Join us on May 17th at the Sale House in Tarrytown at 9 a.m. for a fun morning of fitness, food, and music. Come out and join Mike Coonahan, Mike Trotter, and the Reps for Responders team for a unique experience featuring a cold plunge, a police academy-style workout, brunch, and great music. Reps for Responders focuses on improving the physical and emotional survivability skills of first responders, helping them make responsible decisions both on the job and in their personal lives. Their services support the mental health and well-being of police officers, firefighters, EMS, EMTs, correction officers, military personnel, and nurses, active and volunteer, with the ultimate goal of reducing suicide rates within the first responder community. There are ticket options to work out and brunch or just to spectate and come eat with the crew. You can grab yours at fitforduty.repsforresponders.org. If you're interested in showcasing your business, sponsorship opportunities are still available. For more information, you can find them on Instagram at Reps for Responders. This is an event you don't want to miss. So get your tickets today, and we'll see you out there on May 17th. This episode is brought to you by Whitaker Garage Doors, your one-stop shop for all things garage doors, proudly based in Peekskill, New York. Your home is a direct reflection of your personal style, and let's face it, your garage doors are the first thing people see when they pull up your driveway. Whether you're looking for the timeless charm of a classic carriage house door or the clean, sleek look of a basic wood finish, Whitaker Garage Doors offers traditional options for every taste and budget. I can personally vouch for their incredible service. When I had my own garage doors done, I was blown away by their timeliness, professionalism, and overall respect for their clients. Jonathan, Cassara, and their entire team are top-notch, and they really go the extra mile to ensure you're happy with the final result. So if you're in the market for a new garage door or need some repairs, give them a call or find them on Instagram at Whitaker_doors. Don't forget to tell them you're a friend of Dave's over at the No Snooze podcast. Whitaker Doors. You won't regret it. Now, back to the Epi. Adversity? Bring it. The struggle? I welcome it. Snooze on life? Never that. I am Dave Regina, and this is the No Snooze Podcast. Come on. Welcome back, No Snooze Podcast, episode 221. As always, I'm in a brand new booth with a really big three. I got Claudio the Voice Valenzuela, Sean, Dog of the Year O'Connor, and I am Dave the Body Regina. Sean O'Connor brings a powerful blend of heart, hustle, and high performance to everything he does. He is a licensed mental health counselor, trauma-informed psychotherapist, and peak performance coach who's on a mission to help people unlock their potential by focusing not on what's wrong with them, but on what's happened to them. A former Division I football player and current fitness enthusiast, Sean embodies the connection between mind, body, and purpose. Now, stepping into the personal and professional development space with intention, Sean is not only transforming his own life, but expanding his capacity to impact others on a deeper level. Whether he's working with athletes, high performers, or those healing from trauma, Sean's approach is rooted in compassion, curiosity, and the belief that healing and growth go hand in hand. I'm extremely excited to have Sean here with us today. Sean, welcome to the podcast, my brother.
Thank you, bro. I'm so honored to be here. Seriously.
Listen.
Yeah.
Before we get started, because I'm gonna set you up for success today,
okay.
Right? Because we've done that for each other now for some time.
Yeah.
But last night was a very impactful night, and I just want to touch on the Ace dinners that have been going on. They've been selling out every month. I mean, the impact, the influence, the brotherhood, the perspective that's shared is something that is very hard to explain through the phone, right? And all I could say and all I can encourage is those men that are local in the tri-state area. If you have not been to an Ace dinner, this is the place that you want to be. You're going to hear a major transformation today with Sean's story. But even on my drive up here, I'm thinking about Ace constantly throughout the day. And I was stuck in a lot of traffic. Typically what takes me 40 minutes took me an hour and 53 minutes to get here. I pride myself on being on time. I pride myself on making sure I arrive early because I just believe that that's how you prepare for life. And I was reminded of a story that a gentleman shared yesterday about him losing his 13-year-old son to cancer. Mm-hmm. And this man battled with his son, I believe, stage 4 cancer from like the age of 6 until he passed away 2 months ago. And it very quickly humbled me and reminded me that whatever problem you think is going on in your life, one, somebody always would die to be in your position. And it's just, it's so, I guess what I'm trying to say is when I get down and I get like heavy in my emotions, the things in life that you believe to be really like stress inducing are not that deep, Sean. And I want to pick your brain heavily, man. And I'm just so excited for you to be here because this has been like a 10 plus year relationship in the making. Yeah. So how did we connect? I'll let you kind of set this up, set the stage for people. What brought us back together, my brother?
Yeah. So can I comment on what you just said about last night?
Absolutely. You are free to do whatever you want.
All right, let's go. So first of all, anybody at those dinners that shares anything like that, it's just so powerful. And again, you can't, even just talking about it here, you can't convey what that feels like to hear in person. And that's really the stuff that continues to motivate me even more now to show up to those places, to hear people talking about stuff like that. And it reminds me of the quote, don't know where it came from, but if everybody in a group threw their problems into a pile in the middle of the room, you'd very likely almost 100% take yours back when you hear about what other people are dealing with. Mm-hmm. And people just share one of their issues at those dinners most of the time. So you don't know even what else is going on besides from that. So honor to those guys who, and they know who they are, for sharing. I think there was one heavy one at the end too. Just really powerful. It just gets more and more powerful every time, every month. So again, on the topic of being so excited to be here, how we got connected. So back in, I think it was 2014, 2015, my mom came to me and said, I have this employee or former employee, Dave Regina, who is big into bodybuilding and weightlifting. He works out at Dobbs Ferry New York Sports Club. I told him about you and that you're a football player and you're still lifting weights too. And, both of you guys kind of working out alone. So why don't you link up and get a workout in? And I showed up with you one day at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And we just got after it. I mean, you were writing your workouts on a napkin at that time.
Yes.
And I remember just feeling like I was working out with one of my, football teammates again. Yeah. We just vibed right away. And that went on for several months. And I guess in hindsight, looking back at it, I always felt like this guy is sharp. Like I had no idea you were only a year older than me too, like almost to the day too. You're October, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought, not because of how you looked or anything. I know you're very self-conscious about it, about the aging process. But at that time we were like 24, 25, 26. Yeah. And I was like, this guy just carries himself like he's in his 30s already. Like you are now. And I guess that's where it started, where I was like, he has something that I want. Just feels very organized to be around. So that went on for several months. And then I think I got a new job and the schedule. I actually started working in Stamford, not far from here. So it didn't make sense for me to go to Dobbs Ferry anymore. And aside from just basic interactions on social media, liking a story, giving a reaction, quick, I can't remember. I don't think we had a conversation for several years, maybe 8 years. That's almost a decade. And then I had still obviously followed you, and I had seen a lot of clips from this podcast, and a lot of men, a lot of very masculine looking men coming on here and being vulnerable and talking about mental health. And I was going through some things personally and professionally where I wanted to either tell my story or talk about that vulnerability, or talk about some things that I was learning that I was very excited about, which you'll hear throughout this episode. When I learned something about human nature, psychology, like I have this itch that I have to scratch. I have to talk about it. And I felt like I really, really needed to share that. But because of some other things that were going on personally, I had not nearly the amount of confidence to go ahead and send you this message. So I actually wrote out in the notes on my phone this basically inviting myself to come onto this episode. Like, if you have an open slot, I know you have some heavy hitters and some powerhouses in business lined up there. If you do have something, whether it's now or 6 months from now or a year from now, I'd love to come on and talk about all this stuff. And I was like, nah, I don't want to get left on red or seen. I don't want to get left on. I can't believe I thought that after knowing you now. Yeah. Like, of getting to know you even more now over the last year. I was like, he's gonna leave me on scene, and I can't handle that embarrassment because I was, again, we'll get into that more, but I was like right on the fence of like, it was a bottom for me, but it still always could have been worse. And I was like, if he's just like no, or it doesn't. I don't know how I'll be able to handle that. So, of course, I did the safe thing and didn't send it. And I really don't think it was more than a couple days later that all of a sudden I get a tag. It says, Dave Reg tagged you in a post. And I see, and it's you on camera just advertising the first ACE Summit. And I was like, no fucking way. I'm like, looking back, I didn't know it at the time, but that's God. Of course. Absolutely. It's absolutely God. I must have been putting out some kind of energy that was a vibrational match to enough of an extent for us to connect that way. And seeing you tag me in that, and I remember before I even sent that message, seeing the advertisement for the summit, saying, that sounds like all stuff that I'd love to do, but again, the same mentality that stopped me from sending the message of like, no, I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't feel like I'm performing at a high level anymore. I feel like I look like shit. I feel like shit. So I'm probably not cut out for it. So again, just all limiting beliefs that stopped me from really looking into that. And when you tagged me, then all of a sudden, all of that just lifted. And I think you said, your mental health expertise will contribute a lot. You can be a beginner in every other area. It doesn't matter. Just come. And it lined up perfectly with this. Wasn't even a feeling. It was my state of being at the time. I would wake up and go to sleep with this desire for a change. It felt like I needed to flee. I guess it was a flight response because of how I was living my life. I needed to do something different. I needed to see different scenery. I needed to be around some different people, get a different perspective, just do something totally new, shock to the system. And that's what it ended up being. So I just always tell that story. I love telling that story to the new guys at the dinners, because there's really no accidents for people who show up to something like that. And it's incredible. To even be referring to it that way is something I never thought I would do.
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy. I haven't heard you actually tell the story. Like, I don't really listen to it when you're telling it to the other guys. Obviously, like, I'm not in those conversations. But thinking about it, even when you said with the, with the tag, I was like, wow, I got the chills right there, right? Because I remember going through my friends list and being very intentional about tagging specific people that I personally wanted to like go through this experience with, and you were one of those guys. And shout out to your mother, by the way, Kathy O'Connor. I mean, I always any speech. I mean, CV's heard me shout her out a million times, but she has been one of the most influential mentors, just for me. Obviously, working for her for so many years. But the one thing I always talk about is like, even at the time, I was like a part-time employee. And she treated me with like such kindness and respect and really just treated me as a person, and I've seen the other side of things with bosses and leaders where I just did not want to be like them. And your mother was just a powerful force in any room that she walked in. And I used to study her. I used to like study her, and everything she would do was just really, it was very simple. Just lead with kindness. But then she would grab a microphone and she'd give you a message, you know? So shout out to Kathy and, you know, everything that she's been able to do in her career. And honestly, the path that I'm going down, just even as deputy commissioner, right? Like, you know, I see myself as a commissioner one day as well. And a lot of it stems from her. But yeah, all right, let's get into you know, let's get into the meat and potatoes. I don't know why I always want to say like meat and bones, but that's not accurate. So I had referenced, you know, the dog of the year, and just to give context to individuals who are not in the ACE network, we consider ourselves dogs, and not in a sense of like woof woof, right? But dogs in everything that we do. Killers in business, killers in life, killer fathers, killer entrepreneurs. So people hear that word dog and they're like, oh, like it's so derogatory. No. To us, it's a very meaningful thing. And we had some fun at the summit where there was a saying that said, big dogs only. Because why? Puppies, they piss on the porch. And we don't do that. Right, so Sean was actually awarded the Dog of the Year, which was basically the biggest transformation, not only personally but professionally as well, man. And I'm sure we'll dive into your story, but I can't say enough about you and the impact and the influence that you are now bringing to so many individuals, man. I see you get up there and speak, and you shake the room. You not only shake the room, you shake the block. You know, you
shake the floor when I walk up there.
Literally, because what are you, 6'6"?
Yeah.
6'5", 6'6"? Yeah, you're a large man. But now, you know, you have that voice to match the body, man, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I can't say enough about you. But your journey into mental health, man, and peak performance coaching right now, it's very inspiring. What would you say is the pivotal moment that kind of set you up for the path and the journey that you're on now?
Yeah. So aside from everyone who majors in psychology in undergrad, who really gets into it, they don't know it at the time, but they get into it because they want to figure out what's wrong with themselves. It's a joke in the field that we all majored in psychology. You know, we say we want to help people. I think you're lying if you say you got into it not initially because you kind of want to figure out some things about yourself that were going on. So maybe some things in your household that you didn't quite understand. But of course, there was this natural curiosity, as long as I could remember, always just bombarded with this drive to figure out what makes people tick. I have this, I think the combination from my parents, my dad, less of a talker than my mother, but he had this, this raw, like scientific intelligence. You know, was always like combing through his library, reading, you know, whether it was like, Marcus Aurelius's, meditations or stuff by Machiavelli, astronomy books, physics books, anatomy and physiology, like just so much science and philosophy. So just reading so much about that, always just kind of questioning human nature. And then my mom had more of the able to talk to anyone, you know, the cashier at the store, like knows her life story and it's not awkward. Like you just watch it unfold. So getting into psychology and helping profession, eventually taking that science and studying it and how to turn it into being a counselor was like the perfect blend of the scientific, you know, inquiry and curiosity, as well as that ability to establish relationships with anyone. So the first time I remember falling in love with it was senior year of high school. I took an intro to psychology and morality and ethics class, which was really interesting. Went to Catholic high school, so psychology and morality and ethics were, you know, under that umbrella. Awesome class. Went into college undeclared for the first 2 years, and then I took a couple of courses at the end of my sophomore year that I had a few of my buddies from my team with. I think it was psychology of cruelty and kindness, and then social psychology and some neuroscience, and like those were what was like, all right, I'm diving into this. This is what I'm majoring in. And I guess, so that's kind of stroking it broadly at what I never really had to question after that point. I was like, this is just what I'm cut out for. I guess more socially, more personally, I always felt like people, my friends, even family members, could kind of vent to me about things. I never felt like I was ever judging them, or like I would kind of shy away from people being vulnerable. I just welcomed it with a curiosity, and it's something that of course I've had to craft, but it always came natural to me. So I felt, well, it feels good. It's interesting. I love to do it. I'm naturally good at it. So that was the undergrad part. But what the real pivotal moment was, and I'm going to do my best to stay on that question, but my personal life and professional development are so overlapped. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes they're just going to tangent. But if you need to pull me back, don't
worry, I
interrupt
will.
me.
I got you.
All right. So when I got out of undergrad, I almost quit football. I played football at the same time, obviously, in undergrad at the Division I level. I almost quit. Actually, looking back, I did. Not, throw my helmet and walk off the field. But I had a fifth year of eligibility that I made 1,000,001 excuses as to why it didn't make sense for me to take it, and that I was done, and that I was graduating. I figured out with my advisor that I was graduating, and at the time, I told myself that it was the right thing to do, but looking back, it was because I wanted to party. I had a real big chip on my shoulder, didn't play as much as I wanted to, which was all, my own doing. I partied too much. I thought doing just what was asked of me, 110%, was enough. I know we'll get more into that, but like with competing at that level, aside from very, very few people with just like raw God-given talent that can give 80% and still be good enough to to start or make it to the pros, you have to do more than what's asked of you. And if you think you're doing everything that you possibly can, the greats will go and find, ask the coach, like, what else can I do? Or what else can I keep doing to keep getting better? And I just didn't do that. I went to the parties. I chased girls. I chased highs, and I got real big into that. And I had no idea that that's what was really going on at that time. It was just very cunning. We talk about addiction and vices being very cunning, and they'll make you think that to justify anything. And I justified quitting. So I quit. I had the second semester of my senior year was I barely made it. I don't know how I graduated, but I graduated, and I came home, and I started working as a doorman at a bar. I spent my paycheck back there partying in the days and nights that I wasn't working. And around that same time, a former teammate of mine from high school had left where he was with a similar story. He had actually gotten thrown out of where he was, and told me that he had crashed and burned, and he still had a year of eligibility left, so he was going to look at trying to get that again. And I said, all right, well, I'll work out with you and be your support, because he had a tough family situation, and I was like, I need. At the time, I didn't know it again, but it was like a misery loves company situation. Mm-hmm. And we got very close again, started training together, and I was just there to hear out his whole next college search process. And what turns out is he tells me that he's going to the smaller school to play his last season. Excuse me. And he tells me, how many semesters were you at UMass? And I said 8. And he was like, I think you can play again. And I said, no way. This is God too. Go back. This is definitely God. I said, no way. He said, yeah, to be a scholarship athlete, if you transfer down a division, so it was we were going from Division I to Division II. If you go down a division, that 5-year clock of eligibility is out the window. It's number of semesters that you've been on scholarship. So if you only had 8, you still have 2 semesters to be a scholarship athlete. So I did all the legwork to look into it, because I was like, yeah, man, I miss it like crazy. Oh my God. I would love to play again. Long Island University actually recruited me out of high school. So I was like, this is coming full circle, this same coaching staff. I'm going to reach out and see if they want to have me. We're already getting back in shape. I'm getting in shape with you again because in that end of my undergrad, I gained a lot of weight. I think I worked out like once in like 6 months. And what I did was found out that I had to get into a master's program. And it's funny, like you asked me about a pivotal moment, but it was more of kind of just bumping into the thing that felt right at the time. Like it was very impulsive. I looked at their lists. They're like, okay, yeah, you can play. Once I found out that I can definitely play, and the NCAA cleared me to get those 2 more semesters, and they welcomed me back. I looked at their list of programs, and I was like, a master's in psychology sounds like it might be too much work to do alongside playing football. So, no, not that one. Mental health counseling sounds a little easier and like less scientific. So maybe it'll be like less work. So I'll be able to balance both of those things. I got into that program and I went back to grad school, but I lived that life again as an athlete. And so that was a huge moment. That's like, I had that door open for me to get into the grad program that set me on the path.
Gotcha.
To where I am now.
No, thank you for sharing. Went a lot of different direction, but I picked up on something that you mentioned in terms of excuses. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the main reason that people make excuses for their life in general? Because I feel like a lot of us, we have, the idea and the concepts of wanting to do things, but then typically we're just making excuses for the reason as to why we're not going and getting it. So from your perspective, what would you say was holding you back and making excuses all the time?
Fear. You know what? Not even fear, shame. Because we do stuff that we're afraid of all the time. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, very physical. We drive cars, we fly on planes. We do a lot of dangerous stuff all the time. That can induce a lot of fear, and we just do it. What stops people from doing things is shame, and shame is different from guilt. In that guilt is like you feel like you did something bad. Shame is that I am bad, or I'm less than, or I'm not competent, I'm not good enough, and that is a feeling that is like touching a hot stove for people. And culturally, generationally, so many of us don't have enough experiences of feeling shame and having it not be the end of the world. Mm-hmm. So it feels literally like death. And depending on what
I think also what happens to a lot of us is we basically make these excuses and they become a crutch. So then we can justify the reason as to why we're not really why we want to be. Mm-hmm. And then we just kind of keep limping forward, but we're holding on to those crutches and those excuses. But I think a lot of people, if we can, eliminate the excuses by taking action, it's the most important thing. Another thing you touched on that was super dope is the ability to go 110%. It's something that you do in your life. But also I was watching a documentary on it was on the Olympics, and it was specifically with gymnastics and Simone Biles and all that. Mm-hmm. Simone Biles, right? It's very interesting to me that, first place in the world, you get what?
Gold.
Second place in the world, you get what?
Silver.
Third place in the world, you get what?
Bronze.
And the fourth person in the world who happens to be the best, top 5, what do you get?
Nothing.
0. Wild to me. Really, really wild to think about. And I sat on that and I was like, no wonder why, it's so hard to make it, per se, when you're a go-getter and somebody who really attacks life. And I was like, it was fascinating to me because literally the number 4 person in the entire world, forget the country, you're talking about the world, gets 0. So what does that tell you about the grind that you have to go out and get it? Now that can, I guess a lot of people can process that and be like, damn, well, I'm not going to even try to do anything because I'm not even top 4 in the world. But the reality is that's the addiction that I feel, right? In personal and professional development is just going up and attacking, but also having that humble reminder that even top 4 in the world, there's no award for that.
No.
So it was just something to think about.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that reminds me when talking about athletes and sometimes when they first start therapy and a lot of excuses come out, or they're trying to kind of analyze why their performance is suffering. What you usually find is like that fear of it's a fear of feeling the emotion of shame, because shame feels so.
Fear of feeling. Say that again.
It's a fear, or I would use the word aversion.
Okay.
To avoid using two emotions in the definition. It's an aversion to the feeling of shame, because that's like the gut punch and just weakness. It's like panic. Panic attacks are not an actual fear of an external thing. It's a fear of what it's like to have the symptoms. Of not being able to tolerate what it's like to go through that. So shame, it's an aversion to that shame. And a lot of times what drives people to be so competitive in sports or anything that's creative performers or just anything, any kind of performance, any high performance, what drives them is feeling maybe they felt inadequate at some point in life, and they sometimes are trying to compensate, or they've learned from where they've fallen short in the past, and now they're like, okay, here's my platform to be the best at something, to win gold in my own life. But what they're afraid of is another letdown. It's like kind of why a lot of people with a lot of talent don't try, because they'd rather, again, make excuses that are within their control. Again, it's something that happened that stopped them from getting what they wanted. And that's easier than giving 110% and still coming up short. So it's very, very protective. You saw it. They talked about it very well in that documentary on Netflix, Last Chance U, with the junior college athletes that are trying to get back into the big, Power 5 schools. And that they're like, well, how can you be such a workhorse on the field, but just give no effort in the classroom? And it's like, well, a lot of the trauma that they've experienced in life has been being let down, whether it's by parents, caregivers, siblings, society. They feel so let down, and they're like, I can't feel let down one more time. Sports come naturally to me. If I let myself down or I let my teacher down, like I can't handle that. So it's very protective to not give 110% in everything, because it stops you from feeling like you're letting somebody down or letting yourself down again.
Are you looking to elevate your brand with captivating visuals and immersive sound? Look no further than the home of the No Snooze podcast, Kai Visions Productions, your go-to destination for cutting-edge audio and video production. At Kai Visions, we don't just create content, we create experiences that leave a lasting impact. From podcasts, YouTube variety shows, sleek corporate videos, to attention-grabbing promotional campaigns, our team of experts is dedicated to turning your vision into reality. Choose Kai Visions for a production experience like no other. It's time to make your brand known. Contact us today at kaivisions@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Kai Visions. Kai Visions Productions, where audio-visual excellence meets innovation. Now, back to the Epi. I want to tap into your expertise a little bit with breakthroughs specifically, right? I personally feel that breakthroughs start with belief. And for me, even when I was handed that piece of paper from the doctor a couple months ago that said high-risk colon cancer surveillance, I didn't for a second believe in my heart that was going to affect me in a negative way. I've come to the conclusion that a lot of people break down, not because of the challenges that they're faced with, but because of what they do with the challenges that they're faced with. I've seen firsthand your breakthrough. What would you say has been the most instrumental piece for your own personal breakthrough? And then I want to talk about helping people.
It's a tough one. I want to say that a big part of it really was just exposure to getting up there. then Monday morning quarterbacking, like putting myself out there, like, oh, that didn't go well. But then getting feedback from all the guys that like, that was amazing. Like really influenced by what you said, or like you look so confident there. Like just the repetition of that, like that led to a breakthrough. Like, okay, maybe it really silenced that inner critic.
I'll paint the picture for you even more.
Yeah.
So Sean was somebody that was, what, you were 75 pounds heavier than you are now? Or 70 pounds?
Just about, yeah.
Okay, 70 pounds heavier. You had substance abuse issues, right? Whether you want to say addicted or not, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't where you were at in your career, and now, a year later, you've lost 70 pounds. You are doing incredible things in the career. Look at my finger. The incredible things in your career, and now specifically working with like local law enforcement agencies, right? Mm-hmm. And these are things that like you're not even really looking at like, oh my God, I've shifted my entire life. Mm-hmm. But me looking at it from the outside, the listener hearing like just those three specific things, very serious breakthroughs.
Yeah, and it just came to me as you were talking. That's usually what happens. I get put on the spot, and I'm like, ugh. And then you start talking. You're very good at that.
Thank you, my brother.
Thanks, giving me the alley-oop. The breakthrough for me as a mental health professional was just because I've felt an enormous amount of guilt and shame in my own life personally from some things that I dealt with. It's not a sentence. I'm not sentenced to be a counselor or a therapist where I'm only worthy or I'm only absolved of the things that I feel guilty about if I help X number of people. That's a God's honest truth. It took me a long time. It took me a really long time to know that. The realization came around, I don't know if it was right before the first summit or after the summit, but and not that it's just a job, it's a career. I would like to make it more entrepreneurial, but it's so much easier to do it and to do what it actually is, and that's helping other people, and that's having your mind and body, like I talk about purpose, having your mind and body connection be the instrument of change for people, not trying to talk so much and like go left brain to left brain, like intellectualizing with people to help analyze their problems into being solved. It's really just being so regulated yourself that these people can orbit around you, and you model that regulation for them. And if they choose to do the things that you suggest and keep coming back, that's great. If not, it's still on them. It's this paradox as a therapist where we do everything and nothing at the same time. Someone has a adversity or a loss in their life. I'm not doing a good enough job because they're not having wins, because they're still suffering with that thing they came in for. So it's on me. I'm not good enough. But when they do something well and they have a win, they're like, they thank me. And I'm like, oh, no. Like, no, you did that. And I had a supervisor throughout my career that pointed that out to me, that like, why do we take so much blame for when things go wrong for a person? But then when they have a win in their life, we're like, nah, that's all you. It's always on the other person. So there is this freedom that I've gotten from practicing what I preach and really not just knowing, but physiologically feeling that this is something that I get to do and love to do. And I'm so grateful and lucky that I happen to love what I'm really good at. A lot of people are really good at things, but they're not necessarily what they want to do as a career. And for me, I'm lucky enough where that overlapped. But the biggest breakthrough was we are not sentenced to anything based on what we've done in the past. And that's what I had. That was my biggest mental health struggle, was through in the throes of substance use and being addicted to my own anger and just being terrible in so many ways, and directly and indirectly causing a lot of pain for people around me. Like everybody knows, when you use, you hurt the people around you even more, thinking that I had to compensate for that.
Yeah, you touched on a lot there, and even for me, my journey with therapy, and I want to do a good job. So as I was thinking while you were talking of a pivotal moment for me is I realized that I was struggling with a lot of emotional barriers, I'll call them, right? Like I would feel things and then there would be like a wall, an imaginary wall that I felt that I couldn't get past, right? And therapy has really changed the game for me. And now like I have tools and tactics and strategies. Like I've shared one with the anger piece and like hitting that alarm clock. And I shared something last night where like I still struggle with that stuff, but like I do it and I'm living that in my own life. But as you've been working with so many individuals, what would you say, and specifically to maybe even the listener, somebody who's struggling with an emotional barrier, right? Like what would you say are the most common ones that you see that hold people back from reaching their full potential?
Yeah. So on anger, I think anger is at the core of everything because anger is the protective layer around all the unpleasant emotions that we have that make us feel weak and disconnected socially, because there's nothing more threatening to human nature than social disconnect, right? That's why the world we live in has emotional experiences or social experiences making us have physical panic attacks, because your brain, your subconscious mind's interpreting it like you're going to die if you are alone. And I think anger, when people are addicted, that not only is it physiologically unhealthy, it jacks your blood pressure up. There's a cascade of unhealthy hormonal balance or imbalance, I should say. It just ages you faster, and it just creates so much chaos in your life. Anger is the biggest barrier. So one of my first tactics in therapy as the therapist, and I learned this from exploring it on my own, was just getting people to be curious about their anger while teaching them ways to manage it, right? To just calm the actual physiological response. But as they calm it, to be curious about what's really behind it, because it's the secondary emotion. It doesn't exist in a vacuum ever. There are very, very few times where the anger is, in the world we live in, very justified. Like self-defense, 100%. But even self-defense includes an element of fear and shame and sadness. If you feel like you're going to lose something, you're going to lose your life, you're getting attacked. Road rage always has loads of examples where it's justifiably so to be pissed off that like someone just did something that really startled you in a very dangerous situation. You're in a 5,000-pound hunk of metal going 80 miles an hour. Like, it's scary. So like it's natural to feel angry. But most of the other times where we get angry, we're really not in any kind of threatening situation. It's that the situation is making us feel something, again, shameful, guilty, we're afraid of something, or we're sad. Grief. I can't tell you how much grief, especially post-pandemic, and dealing with athletes that are retiring a lot, retiring or whether they retired early or an injury forced it, there's a grief, there's a grievance there, there's a loss. So the emotional barrier is, grief and everything that anger covers up.
I think emotions are super interesting too, and
stands for energy in motion. So I always want to
energy in motion, emotion, right? So I was just thinking of an analogy. Like, it's interesting when you look at somebody who's sad. Typically, their body reflects that. The motion and the verbiage that they're using is very like slow, lethargic. You don't see sad people like walking around clapping their hands and being like, full of joy. So it's interesting that the biggest way to change an emotion in my life is to shift the motion, right?
Exactly.
Like physiology, my body, and start moving my body in a way to where I'm not identifying with the feeling. Right, so I love that you were just able to touch on that.
That's exactly it. That's how you become.
I'm a therapist, CV.
Yeah,
let's get it, baby. I made it.
Yeah, that's funny. There's so many guys in ACE that would be awesome therapists, and I planned on touching on that at some point in this conversation. That we have so many men like stepping into this space, talking about this stuff, and being involved in these groups and leading these groups. But I was always like the only guy in my classes in school, and you don't have to have go on a strict path of going into school and becoming a licensed counselor to be in a helping space. But we still need more models, because there's a lot. I love how much conversation is coming up generationally and lately about men's mental health, but we still need more providers. So just a side note, like I love listening to some of the guys talk. Like I get therapeutic benefit from that. I'm like, that's a guy I want to, like, when you guys asked me to run a group last night, I love doing that, but also I'm like, like I want to go to a group to like listen to some of the other guys' feedback. And but sorry, I lost.
No, you're good. You're good.
What did you say before?
No, you touched on it. You're fine.
The emotion piece. That's how you become greater than your environment. And that's the power of conscious thought. I've been very deep in the Joe Dispenza stuff. So a lot of this is my kind of recycling of what he's solidified and what I've been able to read through his teachings, and everything, all my training coming together in personal experience. But that's what it is when you can regulate the emotion enough to catch it. Like you always say, like you have negative thoughts, take a positive action. Like you're literally changing your physiology. And because the mind and body connection is bidirectional, it's not a one-way street. After you get that momentum going in a different direction, your thoughts will start to follow.
That was fire.
Every time.
Bi-directional is super fire, right? Because you don't feel that in the moment.
No, we always think our thoughts cause our feelings. It's a loop.
I'm thinking back right now too. You sent me this great podcast, man, and I've touched on it before, I believe, where trauma doesn't have to be traumatizing, and that was a Huberman podcast that you specifically sent to me. I think a lot of people deal with trauma in their lives, and there's no one way to explain trauma, right? But what would you say is a mindset shift that individuals who are struggling with trauma can make tomorrow?
First thing is the declaration that you're not a terrible person based on how whatever that event was that made you feel. You may be a person that had a terrible thing happen to you. So that's the mindset shift right away, is especially childhood trauma. Real quick side note, I always want to say this. The funny thing about ACE, the Action Cultivates Excellence, ACE is the acronym we use in the psychotherapy world or the psychology world for adverse childhood experiences. It's like such a coincidence that like so many of us got involved in the community because we've had adverse childhood experiences that made it difficult for us to relate and open up to other men or open up as a man. So I just thought that was interesting.
No, that is.
Childhood experiences when your mind is still so egocentric, and not in like a cocky, confident way, overly confident way, but just that everything around me is about me. It's biological. You can't shut that off. So when you're a kid and you're in an environment where there's a lot of stress around you and you don't know that it's very likely almost 100% of the time not your fault, because you're never responsible for managing the emotions of an adult as a kid, you still interpret that you're the cause of their stress. And it's a feeling. It doesn't matter what they say. You pick up on what they're feeling. So that is what people carry into adulthood, where when they experience something bad, whether it's a shock, everything from assault, a car accident, just getting into a verbal altercation. Trauma just means anything that overloads your capacity to cope. And you don't get to decide what that capacity is until you become conscious of the fact that you have the ability to expand that through a number of means. But your baseline level of ability to cope with stress, trauma is just any event that overloads that. And it's very much dependent on what happened to you before that event, leading up to that event. And that's the first thing that sets in is after, because we're meaning-seeking creatures. Like things happen to us and we immediately are like, what does this mean about the world? What does this mean about me? And the first thing that will happen is like, it's my fault. I deserve this. If I hadn't done X, Y, and Z, I wouldn't have been in this position. I invited this to happen. The narrative is that bad things happen to me, so of course this happened to me. So people start to really feel, it becomes like there's biology to that belief. It's not just like I am a terrible person because these terrible things happen. So the very first thing you can do is make that declaration that you're not a terrible person. You are a person that may have had a terrible thing happen to you.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is something I'm very curious about. Just even in my own life, coaching individuals now one-on-one and taking on a lot of their emotional, stress and the traumas that kind of happen to them and helping them work through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious how you manage your own emotional health while helping others navigate their own challenges of life. You talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, like I said, I did the larger part of my career so far. I was in the dark, thinking that if I just shoved everything aside and made space for that hour that I was with that person, it was good enough and that I could be smart enough intellectually to help. But that is nothing compared to how you are physiologically aligned at that moment, especially in trauma healing, because it's your bodies are you're more sensitive to the energies that other people have, and when you have complex post-traumatic stress, that hypervigilance comes with like a picking up on how everybody is energized around you. So what I do first and foremost is I live a sober life now. I just know that no matter what I face, no matter how stressful something is, I'm always dealing with it in the most realistic sense. And there's not 900 variables making it more difficult to manage. It's like, here it is right in front of me. This is as bad as it's going to get because there's nothing altering my consciousness right now. So I can deal with it. So I purify my body that way. Daily movement. I probably do too much intense exercise daily. Like I got to take some days where I just shout out to Pat Damiano and actually do his mobility work and not just crush the kettlebells every single day, 7 days a week. So exercise is the one that's obvious. I do a ton of meditation now. And meditation is awesome because when I used to have this like need for speed, like I needed something to be I needed something to be unknown and like enticing. Like, wow, I don't know how this is going to be. I used to do that by by altering my mind and like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to give myself this chaotic feeling. Now my meditations are like, I don't know. I'm not attached to how they're going to be, but I'm like, I might see some shit. I might have a breakthrough thought or feeling or have, or enter a trance where like I kind of detach from like space and time and just feel so good when I don't know what's going to happen in the meditation. And that is that's the excitement for me. So meditation's huge, constantly reading, journaling. And I know you talk about this a lot, but having a morning routine that starts in the evening. I do a lot of the same stuff. I pack my gym bag I put the clothes in the order that I'm going to put them on after the workout. I lay out the workout clothes. I have the water with the electrolytes in it actually in the car already. I have my lunch, or if I have lunch and dinner, packed in the fridge already just to grab it. It's like just minimal thinking, just grab, walk out the door. But the first thing I do sometimes before I even go to the bathroom, depending on how bad, if I have to go to the bathroom that bad, I like can't do anything else and do that first. But if I can hold it, feet hit the ground, make the bed. So cliche. So many people talk about it, but it's just before my eyes are even fully open, I did something that is aesthetically pleasing. It's neat. And it just feels good. It's nice to come home to that too. So that then is where the cold comes in. So I actually shifted to cold showers now. I love ice baths.
It's just dramatic, right? I mean, you got to put the ice in, you got to make the ice, you got to buy the ice. Shout out to all the, the ice and iron brothers out here. But I mean, the cold shower is very easy. Turn it, jump in, right?
I wanted to make sure I shout out to Joe K and Nick Menente for the philosophy and the influence to get into cold plunging.
Yep.
It's so much more psychological for me than any kind of physiological benefit. But that was at the summit, jumping in that lake, getting that exposure was the very first time that I ever realized that there was a way to be naturally happy, focused, driven, excited, and just fulfilled physiologically without needing something foreign. So and that's a gift. That's priceless. That was a priceless experience to have that, the way that whole first day went at the first summit. So, but what I do now, and this is more, and Huberman talks about this too, is the safe but sucks protocol. Cold plunging is actually I love it so much that I actually do the cold showers because the cold shower sucks more. Like the ice bath is, it takes your breath away and it's brutal when it's cold outside. But you start to develop this comfort there, like your body adapts to the stillness of the water. And the cold shower, I hate it. It doesn't get any better because there's water trickling down on different parts of your body, and like there's the enticing nature of like you can just turn it, if it sucks so bad you can just make it hot real quick and you can get out of it immediately if you want to. So there's a temptation to change the temperature of the water, and it's just like cold needles like hitting you over and over again. So I found for me the cold shower is actually harder, even if it maybe doesn't have like the anti-inflammatory benefits that like just fully submerging yourself in the ice bath does. It starts my day being like, wow, I just did something like that's really hard and it really sucked, and I did it, but now I feel amazing.
You do that before the gym?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I do that before. As soon as I wake up, then I go work out, sauna for at least 20 minutes. I meditate or do a breathwork session in the sauna. I start a podcast on the way to the gym, and then I finish it on my way to work. I have a conversation with my girlfriend on the way to work because we don't get to see each other every day. So we check in the morning. That's been really, really helpful too, is there was a time where we both kind of fed off each other, just kind of complaining about how the day was going to go. Like, we don't want to go to work and whatever. And we've both together shifted that to like what's going really well and having like a really enjoyable, productive, even sometimes faith-based conversations on the way to work. And then once I hit South Yonkers, I'm like, I got to lock in. I still got ADHD. Like, there's a lot going on. I don't want to get in a fender bender because I'm locked into talking to you. Yeah. So
shout out to Gina too.
Yes.
She's an incredible woman.
Incredible.
And I just think, in our circle specifically, I don't think it's by coincidence that, we were on the path that we're on as strong men, because we have very strong women right by our side.
Yeah, and she was
Gina embodies that for sure.
I don't know if the relationship would have, if I didn't get an ultimatum. It's not like she told me to. I actually told her, hey, I'm going to go to this thing. But that was something that I needed to do, because some part of me knew at that time, like, you're not going to make it. You're going to do the same thing you've always done and run away from what you need to confront and just say, it wasn't the right relationship, and just run away from it again. And like, no, you're going to actually do what relationships are, and that's an investment, and that's like working on yourselves together and then sharing that space. And like that's been there's been so much fruit from that labor. It's awesome. It's so much fun. I love it. Like she went from like binging reality TV and like eating sweets 3 meals a day to cooking us protein packed meals, meal prepping. She's sending me videos of Goggins talking. She's saying to me, I'm telling her, I'm like, I'm spinning about what I should do, and she's like, what would Goggins do? And I'm like, who are you? Like, you used to read like these romance novels, and like she just read Can't Hurt Me. I'm like, that's awesome. So we're leading, so I'm leading, aligned. And
relationships are hard, man. Yeah. They're definitely hard, but the best way to explain it, even in my, current relationship with Katie, is it's a daily intention, man. You got to show up every single day. And, we turn over to each other every day, whether it's physically turning over or if she's not staying, with me. We say these 3 things. I love you, I'm grateful for you, and I choose you today and always. So it's like, we call it the Big 11. All right. She's November, so the 11 has nice meaning to it, but that's actually 11.
So is Gina.
It's 11 words.
Crazy.
It's 11 words that we say to each other, and it's something I even have to remind myself, because by lunchtime I might be like pissed off with work or something like that. Maybe she says something that kind of ticks me off a little bit, and we always come back to the Big 11, man, and it's a beautiful thing. So I see you guys doing that as well, obviously, in your own relationship. And I love to acknowledge strong relationships. I've
definitely gotten her flowers more frequently than than before from watching you.
Yeah, I get a lot of guys, man. Listen, not for nothing, but I'm going to tell you guys this. Flower your woman. Flower her, flower her, flower her.
It's so easy.
It's so easy. And honestly, like I catch my lady. Sometimes we're watching a show. I'm like, you watching the show? And she's like, her eyes go up and she's like, I'm just looking at the flowers you got me. I'm like, that's all it took? Like, that's all I got to do? And I do it. I'm like, let me do that every week, baby. Every week.
Yeah.
And I don't do it every week, right? So it actually sparks something even better in me to take care of these flowers because I only buy her new flowers when they die. So my goal is to keep them alive as long as possible. So I started becoming a plant dad, and I talk to them, and a green thumb, right? Yeah, that's right. I'm thinking you're telling me it's a good episode, CV. he put his thumb up. Yeah. But it's really sparked like a little passion in me because I'm like, damn, don't die on me. Then I got to go buy new ones. So I'm talking to these babies. I'm like, look, I pray that you flourish, and I want to bless you with good energy, and let's have an amazing day. And I'm talking to these freaking flowers.
Yeah, and Kaylee talks to him just on the video, just calling the plant baby girl.
That's right. Baby girl just lost her hair too. She's an orchid that's been with us since November. And she came home one day and Callie's like, oh, baby girl, you lost your hair. It's okay. It's going to grow back. So it's the funniest thing. But yeah, man, just get your girl some flowers, man. It's a very simple gesture, and it's something that I didn't do. I've been in relationships, and specifically one relationship for a very long time when I was married, right? Mm-hmm. And that individual just happened to not really like flowers by any means. Like she was like, they die. Like I don't need them. So I never had an opportunity to really flower a woman. Mm-hmm. So now I just like kind of double down on it. And you know me, baby, when I'm locked in and consistent, it's just like now you're going to get the most flowers in the world.
Yeah.
You
have the same florist you go to.
Yeah. No, and that's the other thing. People think it's like expensive. I go to Acme. And the local Acme.
So glad you said that because I was about to say, Target?
No, dude. Yeah, same thing. Target, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be like these I mean, I think Valentine's Day, I almost didn't buy Katie flowers on Valentine's Day because they were $90. I'm like, dude, I pay $10 a week for these.
Right,
like,
$90 you can get even something more meaningful.
It's ridiculous. Shout out to Yorktown Jewelers, the best in the game. Serving Westchester for over 16 years. This family-owned business is built on a foundation of respect and honesty. Run by a father and son team, Myron and Mike, both men are rooted in strong morals and integrity, making them a trusted name in the community. Whether you're looking for timeless pieces or something unique, Yorktown Jewelers offers exceptional quality, a wide selection, and unbeatable pricing. When you shop here, you're not just getting great value. You're supporting a business that truly cares about its customers. For all your jewelry needs, head to Yorktown Jewelers, where trust, craftsmanship, and service shine bright.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Ace a little bit, man.
Yeah.
And, I guess just what was the most, and this is something I really haven't asked you and we haven't spoke about, so it's good to do it publicly for the first time. Hopefully it's something good. What was the most surprising thing that you learned about yourself through your involvement now with Action Cultivates Excellence?
Just straight up that I'm a leader, that I am a leader. I've always just believed I was going to be a follower and I wanted to be coached and led. And, I'll take care of myself, but I want to be told what to do. And now I'm in a position where I like people are looking to me for like cues on what to do and say, like, even in the group last night, like guys are like looking to me like, can I comment on this? And I'm like, go ahead. Like, so just being a leader, and tapping into stuff that was always there. Mm. It's helped me cultivate things that I didn't know that are brand new. But the most surprising thing was the realization that I'd spent so much time focused on like what negative did I inherit from my past or from, you read one book about ancestral trauma and you're like, oh, I just, that's why everything's so hard because my, great grandparents probably dealt with this. And then I was just like, nah, man, like look at how much leadership there is coming full circle. You talk about my mother, like, and my grandfather, my grandfather enlisted for World War II. He didn't even wait to get drafted. And I'm like, I started thinking about that stuff and I'm like, there is leadership in my blood and realizing that and tapping into that, living in alignment with that was the most surprising thing. But I guess aside from that, really just feeling like I belong there. Because again, I had such a strong belief that like I'm not. Those aren't. I would be to be in a spirit of vulnerability, transparency. I would be one of the first people that would have said, you know, all these communities that are popping up, like they're overcompensating for something. It's bullshit. Like they're still missing this something. Like there's a lot of ego tripping there. You know, it's there's a sense of narcissism there. Like, and all that was my insecurity. And you talk about the podcast I sent you. That was the protective part of me that really felt how badly I wanted to be a part of something like that. I had a taste of it when I was on sports teams, but I wanted it again so badly. But this other part of me was like, no, like you're a fucking loser. Like I really believed that. I was like, you are a loser. You're not welcome there. So I had this protective layer that just shit on things like that. And it made it easier for me to sit with the fact that like I didn't feel like I was able to connect with it. But again, just grateful to God for the fact that I was able to get invited and then like almost instantaneously I was like, yeah, man, like this is where you belong.
You have a skill set about you too that you know, the word action obviously just always jumps out, but like you're a dude that just like it's immediate. And I kind of want to tap into that a little bit. I've noticed that a couple times with you. Like, boom, when I tagged you, you instantly like, boom, you're into the summit, right? Sean throws out like, yo, let's do 50 miles. You're like, boom, let's sign up. We're like, yo, here's a workout on Sunday. Boom, here's my ticket, right? So like you clearly can't just think like that all the time. But
Yeah.
what's the initial spark? Because I love it. Mm-hmm. I really like, I try to emulate that even in my own life because I know that if I do that positive action, like even the negative thoughts that are going to happen after I took the action, they're going to be there, but it's like, I'm already signed up. I got to go. But like, that's a real skill that you have because like this dude, my boy does not hesitate, bro. Like he's a big boy to be running 50 miles. And Sean literally just put out this challenge of like 50 miles within seconds. He's like signed up. So talk to me a little bit about that like character trait of yours.
Yeah, it says I think it has more to do with you guys too. I mean, there's just this trust there. Like I think it starts with vulnerability. Like what went down in the first summit, I just have like infinite trust in that and anything that community does. Like that and I just want to be a part of it. I just can't it can't get enough of it. Never get sick of it. I never even, you know, I think like one time I took some like introverted time for myself. I had bought a ticket to a dinner, but that night I just was washed over with like I just want to I want to be alone. I want to be completely alone, even though I know they're helpful. And then the next day you actually reached out to me and checked on me, like shit like that, which I'm not used to. And there's a trust there that and I think something inside of me, it's spiritual. Like there's something spiritual that I felt in that community that I wanted so bad in my life because I felt the other way for so long. Even in periods of achievement, like, you know, graduating from things and winning games, and like I just have been living my life a certain way for so long that it's such an abundant community. That's the only word I can think of when I think of it. There's so much there to take from, and I have so much fun and so much fulfillment, and it makes me like Sean said it. He's like, I'm a personal and professional development junkie. So I think I guess taking that need for speed I always had, I'm able. That's where I channel it from. Like the impulsivity works there.
Yeah, I'm going to be very clear though. I mean, you signing up for this 50 miles, if you pull a muscle or something, it's not on me.
No.
You know what I mean?
And
this is on you.
If I do,
and
I
this
know
is on Sean Degnan. This is not on Dave Regina. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. He's like, yeah, but I trust that man.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
and
go
I ran. How if I'm I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared of that. I'm
Of course.
pretty fucking afraid. But I just, since there's been other things that I've done that I was afraid of, and how it feels on the other side of that. It's like the bigger the fear, I really thought we might die in that first cold plunge in the lake. I was like, these dudes, this is brand new. Like, we didn't even sign a waiver. Sean's like, the business is going to go under before it even gets started because like someone goes into shock,
Yes.
you know, in the lake. But how scared I was of that, like, I'm going to be the one, like, it's going to be this sad, like, headline that, like, you know, men tried to do this thing and it didn't work out. Like, it's horrible.
Dog of the year has a different meaning.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Like, you know, doggy, no paddle, you know, like, and then the feeling coming out of there and then rolling into the rest of the weekend, it was like, okay, so just the bigger the fear, like, there's just tremendous, like, euphoric fulfillment on the other side of that. So, at how scared I am to run that long. And I have a goal of going, you know, I'm 280 pounds.
Big boy.
And I, you know, the most I ran, yesterday morning, I ran 3 miles straight for the first time. I've never ran.
Your knees are good?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, shout out to Justin at Arise Physical Therapy in White Plains. He's awesome. You know, he's been to the community. I didn't even know that he was part of the community when I got referred to him. My mom was going to him for something she was dealing with, and she's like, "You should see Justin. He's great." I get there and find out that he's a part of ACE too, and a lot of you know, good friends with Nick. I'm like, this is no coincidence again. But Justin's really been helping open up all these things that were just locked up from a lifetime of, like, you know, a decade of skipping leg day after college and never stretching. So I ran that and I was like, well, how 3 miles feels like this is going to really suck. I still have like 10 weeks to get ready for it. But my goal is to do a half marathon distance straight. I think I can do that. I know I can do that. Sean tells me you're doing at least a marathon. That much I can tell you. And again, like, I'm like, all right, he said I'm going to do it.
Well, I would put it back on Sean. If you are 26 miles in and you can no longer run, I challenge Sean Degnan to carry this man the rest of the way.
I was just going to say,
Right?
he'll carry
right?
me.
If you're putting the trust in him, he better carry your ass.
All you got to do is like, Sean, you won't carry me the rest of the way, and he'll have a moment
He'll
like,
absolutely carry you the rest of the way. Too.
Yeah,
He's a sick boy.
He'll start singing DMX and throw me over his back.
This is a tough question, man, but I'm curious, even just for individuals that are struggling with any level of addiction of some sort. Again, it just so happened to be, and I believe the story goes something like you were actually headed to the pharmacy on your way up to the first summit. Whether the pharmacy was closed or you figured that it was going to be, you were going to be late. You actually opted out of picking up your medication.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you.
And that was like day one of the sobriety journey.
Yeah. So, so I smoked weed that morning, so I don't count that day as being sober. But I went to go pick up, or I was waiting for my prescription, it was Adderall. I was waiting for it, be totally misusing it. And the pharmacy calls and says that there's like a shortage and you're going to have to wait. And in that moment, I was so furious. Anybody who struggles with addiction with anything can relate to this feeling of when you're anticipating getting what you want, getting what what you need, and then just for some reason, you can't. There's a ferocious anger that comes over you. And I think in that moment, I was like, dude, what the, like I had an out of body or out of mind experience of like, look at that. Like, that's pathetic. I'd already known leading up to that for several weeks, even months, that I can't, I'm living too fast. Like this is not sustainable. But right now, like I always said, until I figure out this and that and figure out X, Y, and Z where I'm able to slow down more, like I'll just keep doing it because it's going to get me there. But it was, again, just a justification. But that feeling, like just how pitiful that was, like pathetic, that I was that angry that I wouldn't be able to get this medicine. And I said, you know what, screw it. Like I'm going to get the most out of this weekend, just letting everything, just being completely sober. So at that time, all I thought was like, I just won't I've been taking it every day for God knows how long. I won't smoke it. I won't smoke anything. And I won't take that while I'm there. I'm don't think there's going to be alcohol there, so I don't have to worry about that. And then obviously like how it felt when I got out of the cold plunge. Something called me to tell Joe, because Joe modeled the vulnerability in the very first moments we were there, admitting his sobriety and his battle with addiction, and like just how a few guys did, how easily they opened up about that, and then getting in the water, coming out at this crossroads of like, I could not say anything. If I just don't tell anybody that I have a problem, like nobody can hold me accountable for that. But higher self knew that it was time, and it just felt right. And I just said, Joe, it's like, I can't stop taking this. I can't stop doing this. Like, but I think what we just did, I think that's the answer. And he's telling me about this, the science behind it with the dopamine and all that. And I'm like, oh, that's why. I'm like, so I started calling cold plunging nature's Adderall.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah, and it's, and with no side effects and no negative side effects.
Except for not being able to sleep because you're on fire. That was the worst decision we ever made the first night. One, I had a big bear snoring next to me. I won't shout him out. He might be in this room. He says he didn't snore, but I got video proof. If you want to clip that into the episode, CV, we could do that. The CV wasn't it. But there's a vivid memory in my mind, man. I don't know if it was the first or the second summit, but I remember you getting into that water and your soul was like, just, you had a breakthrough.
Because I thought I was going to die.
My boy went from thinking he was going to die to start swimming the opposite way.
Yeah.
Do you remember you did that?
Terrible idea.
Like, he was so, I remember you started screaming. I wonder if we have that clip. Do we have that clip?
I don't know, but I thought I was tough. Like I knew that if I watched a bunch of other guys do it, it was just going to keep building. That's why like last night at the dinner, I sat third because I hate waiting until the end to go. So I was like, I want to go. And I guess, you know what, now that I say it out loud, like there's the natural leader in me. Like I want to do it first with Dave and Sean. And Vin Maselli came in with us too. That's another funny story.
Yes.
What he told us afterwards. But everybody's like, if you've never done this before, just lower yourself in, because it can, you got to get used to it. It'll take your breath away. I'm like, fuck that.
I don't agree with that.
Did a cannonball.
Yeah.
But I did a cannonball in and immediately lost every single molecule of air in my lungs. I've never felt, it was as if somebody was choking me. Not to mention just like the million knives of cold water on your body, and you're in this big, dark, like ominous, like we had to crack ice to get through it. And I'm still like, once I eventually caught my breath, I'm thinking I'm tough. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go swim. Like I'm getting hyped. And now that I know, like you're like, yo, you made it harder for yourself because your body forms that protective layer over your skin to like, to block out the cold. And or I don't know what the exact science is behind.
Well, you're way too big to be saving. So if you were going under, bro,
so
we would have given it a good shot. But I don't know if we were getting you out.
We have the picture of Vin's face where Vin was like, "This guy's never done this before, and he won't get out, and I want to get out." So like I need him to get out so that I don't look like I'm tapping out before him. It was almost like the sauna competition, but like in the
cold.
In the cold.
No, you had a great breakthrough there.
But that was and that's what happens. Like I guess that's as close to a near death experience as you can have, but it was intentional. Like that happened to me. But I still chose to get into it, and just being that close to thinking, for my subconscious to be like, you can't breathe, like you might not make it out of here, to then feeling more alive than I ever have before, right on the other side of it. Just goes back into what I was talking about before with what makes me, make those impulsive decisions to do those big challenges or things that are fearful.
With your experience now in sobriety, what would you say to somebody that's struggling with addiction?
There's what's called radical acceptance, which means that you look at reality exactly for what it is. No matter what that means, you admit for yourself. Don't blame any other person. No one else is making you do it. Your experiences aren't making you do it. Again, that piece that you're not this bad person for it is still important, but you have to radically accept that even though I don't approve of what is going on. I have to accept that that's what is going on. And only then can you actually make a change. Because if you're attached to some other reality where there's some other reason for something that you're doing, any change that you try to enact is going to be on a reality that doesn't exist. I don't know if that makes sense. This was like I got trained in what's called dialectical behavioral therapy, and it's just behavioral modification principles kind of merged with like Eastern spiritual influence, and those Buddhist principles of like non-attachment and balancing acceptance with change. And that's a huge part of my therapeutic approach, but especially with addicts, like is having them admit that things are as bad as they are and that things are unmanageable. And just kind of getting out of that denial. But it's hard to convey it through words, but honestly, I really thought I was convinced that I was going to live fast and expire early. I was like, I don't know how to live without chasing something, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to live this way. And if I expire early, then so be it, because I don't really know another way to do things. And now on the other side, like, I can't believe that I ever thought that.
I look at a lot of this. I look at a lot of this in terms of like self-control, and I was just reading the book of Proverbs. I think it's Proverbs 25, and basically the analogy is a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. Now, back in the day, a city that had broken down walls was very open to attack, right? So we in our lives need to establish this level of self-control, even though it's hard, because we don't want to leave ourselves open for the possibility of attack, whether that's spiritual attack, whether that's attack from substances, whether that's attack from a lack of vulnerability and not being able to express ourselves. So I've attached the Bible to a lot of, obviously, what I do. And I was just having this conversation with an individual who, is very addicted. And we were just talking about the importance of self-control and being able to find ways to limit the temptation, right? Because that's really what discipline is. It's self-control and then controlling your temptation and your urge. Now, if you can do that one day, you can do that every single day.
Right.
Right.
Right. And I think I wanted to get into, there's a couple things about that I just wanted to say in general that I planned on touching on. But I think, again, it's all related. Like, unbeknownst to the addict, there's something in their wiring that they don't know is craving relief in some way. There's something that they don't want to feel. They don't know that's what's driving. That's what creates the addiction. That's what creates addiction is just an associative memory. It's like, it's a memory of took this foreign thing or did this foreign thing. And now the external input, and now my internal state is a certain way. And when it's so euphoric when you finally don't feel that thing about yourself, that's what creates the addiction. And for me, it was I identified, I wasn't just anger. I didn't just hold anger. Like, I was anger. Like, it was like almost a running joke. Like, I was a complainer. I was negative. I thought I was the angriest person. And then I had a crazy temper that I didn't know was even there until, fourth grade. I fouled out of a CYO basketball game and like launched a chair across the gym, and and I got kicked out of class in middle school for, like, my friends were making fun of me for it. And then the teacher heard about it and like kicked me out for that, which just made the shame worse. I'm like, I didn't even do it in school. Like, why am I getting in trouble in here? So I would always have these outbursts, and then it's nobody else. It's not their fault. If I was an adult and saw me doing what I was doing, I wouldn't know how to handle it really either. I would get punished for that, and it would just make it worse. And the more shame I felt, the angrier I got. Then when I got to college, started drinking and losing control. And it was usually in my relationships. I absolutely lost it. Like, I I destroyed property. I came, I had what you could call like domestic instances. I never put my hands on anybody, but like I broke a lot of stuff around them. I threw tantrums, screaming. I'm this size, screaming in somebody's face. Like I can't imagine how horrifying that must have been. People were posting Facebook statuses the next day, like, thanks to the football player who destroyed my living room last night. And like I would wake up and expect to see the police in my driveway, and like I just unimaginable shame. Like I can't. It was just this pit of like, who am I? Like felt so disconnected from any good part of myself. And then what happened was when I no longer was being tested by the NCAA for sports, and I could ingest certain things. I know this now that as soon as I actually went to try to get help. I guess this was a pivotal moment for getting into working with athletes, but I went to the mental health services and I was like, I can't stop getting angry when I drink. And their suggestion was, well, have you tried drinking less? Like,
Yeah. Wow.
no shit. And she was great. Again, I had no idea how to explain what I was going through at the time. But what happened was the first time my brain's wired with all that shame and just so protective, like don't get into that state because it's gonna go too far one day and you're gonna get in trouble. You're not gonna be able to just ask for forgiveness. And then I ingest something that's all of a sudden it's like, wow, it is biologically impossible to get angry right now. So this is the cocktail. So now as long because clearly not drinking wasn't an option. Mm-hmm. So if I'm gonna drink, I have to mix it with X, Y, and Z. And then I will be in a state where I could watch my ex be with someone else in front of me, and I'd be like, "Oh, cool, man. I'm glad that's working out for you," and just like be on my merry way. Whereas before, if I was just drinking and someone did something that made me feel jealous or just insecure in some way, I would throw a table through a wall. So I got addicted to the experience of not having to worry about getting violently angry. And I wanted to say that just again, like,
no, thank you, bro.
If there's one person out there that doesn't understand why they can't stop doing something, I'd say that's this has kind of been the pattern so far. You ask me the question and I give an answer and then you respond and then I'm like, actually, yeah, here's the more in-depth answer. But that's what you really need to look at. If you feel like you can't stop, again, you need to look at what are you so desperately trying not to feel? And when you start confronting that and accepting that it's not you, it's a part of you, then the real change happens. When you learn that you don't have to be afraid of that part. Just like in the episode I sent you, you start being curious about it, and then things start to come together. Yeah.
This is exactly why I love this dude right here. You're very deep and very philosophical on a lot of things, and then you have this authenticity about you that just ties everything together, and you're able to speak from like a real vulnerable personal experience of yours, man. So we went in a lot of directions today. Is there anything that you want to touch on that we did not speak on specifically?
So the one last thing I wanted to touch upon that has a lot to do with the addiction and the anger was my experience with OCD. And it doesn't have to get into extreme detail, but I wanted to be very clear about this because it's a big misconception. It's very common. Obsessive compulsive disorder is not just, oh, I have to turn the faucet back and forth 30 times or else I have this bad feeling. It's more of a compulsion, a feeling compelled to do something a certain way, to sometimes it's nervous tics, but it's obsessing over doing something a certain way so that you avoid an outcome. But it was very specific for me. Like a lot of people just look like they're like, I just get anxious. But some people think like, oh, this person's gonna die if I don't park my car in between the lines a certain way. And for me, I had a different kind. which is what I was trying to numb out all those years, was this intrusiveness. And I say intrusive meaning it was as if somebody injected these thoughts, not like they were coming from me, they were coming from elsewhere. And it was always these, sometimes it was violent, or it was terrible things happening to people that I cared about or loved. Or it even went as far as terrible things happening to me. And then the image, it was very visceral and very much in my mind's eye, having to witness what other people's reactions would be in response to that happening to me, if that makes sense. And I know now that I could have just asked for help, but I'm actually glad that I didn't, because I probably would have went to like an adolescent psychiatric unit, probably would have gotten pumped full of medication and had a lot harder of a time kind of stabilizing my mind. But a lot of this had to do with my religious upbringing. Like, I had the fear of God in me back then. And I was like I said before, everything means something. So the fact that these thoughts are entering my mind means something negative about me. So I must be going to hell. I'll never forget the moment where I just got washed over. I was watching a movie, and someone had like a dialogue in the movie that was talking about people don't like value their lives. And like, I had this guilt come over me that like, you know, I don't help my mom enough. I don't help around the house enough. Like, I'm not a good enough person. And like, something terrible is going to happen to me unless I do every single chore and positive thing that I possibly can. And it drove me crazy, because it's unfathomable to never make a mistake as like a 13, 14-year-old kid. So a lot of my addiction and anger and stress came from just not knowing that I could have just put that out there and had someone else be like, oh, you too? Or just normalize that. It wasn't until I was like in my mid-20s in therapy that I told my therapist what that was. And they were like, oh, and just like explained it to me and like normalized it. And they're like, oh, it's just information. And like, here's the mechanics of that. And that makes a lot of sense that you felt the way you have throughout your life. So that was a huge turning point for me to realize that, like, again, it's less important to analyze where it comes from and more important to know that it's not just because it's in your mind doesn't mean that it's aligned with who you actually are, what you really want to do. And the thing that led me to want to get even more so wanted me to get sober was the very last thing I thought of was one of those images was imagining my parents responding to my death. I know that's kind of, I don't want to leave that as like a doorknob, like at the end, but that was the image where for a while through the holiday season, like leading up to the first summit, where anytime they did anything positive with me or were not, you know, just nice, loving, supportive, got me gifts on Christmas, I could not stop crying because I felt so bad at the way that I was living. And that I had this visceral image of like, you know, my parents like holding each other up, like limping downstairs, dressed in all black, like going to my funeral if I was continuing to live the way that I did. And that was just the most terrifying thing. And I'm so glad that I don't have that anymore. It still happens with like driving for some reason. Like this random thought will pop up that like, are you sure you didn't like hit something? And I'll waste time. I'll circle back around and like, you know, look to make sure I didn't like knock, you know, hit somebody. And then like, but I read in a book that's just another way the brain kind of like fires. I don't know. In all honesty, I don't really give a shit. Like I manage it. It doesn't interrupt my life that much anymore. But just a message to anybody out there that has that type of OCD, tell someone about it, because you don't have this unique type of it that doesn't exist anywhere else, and you're not fucked up beyond repair. There are mechanics to it, and as soon as you talk to somebody about it and have the experience of them normalizing it for you, there is freedom on the other side of that. And I just wish that I did it earlier, but I don't regret anything else on that journey.
Powerful stuff, my brother. Very powerful.
Thank you for letting me share that.
No, absolutely, man. Listen, I want to thank you for not only your involvement with ACE, but for showing up the way that you do every day. I think it's very commendable to see, you know, a man of your stature. It's great to be, this big physical specimen that we always talk about, right? But it's even doper to me personally, on a personal level, to see you have that emotional intelligence and that mental resilience, and that vulnerability that really plays into who you are as a man. And I think you're setting a foundation for a lot of individuals to come behind you and to learn from you. I'm excited to grow alongside you as well and to continue to learn and serve with you. And I just want to say thank you, my brother.
Yeah,
thank you
likewise,
for
man.
coming on.
I've known you for quite a while. I've known Sean for the last year. You guys talk about really diving into this space, the leadership, personal professional development, more so in the last 4 or 5 years. But even just what I've seen from when you started this till now, the way that you and Sean have evolved. You guys are. Sean used to say, "I consider myself a leadership expert," and I always wanted to be like, "No, dude, you are. You are. You don't consider yourself one. You are one. So are you." And that's something again that like I just think was in the energy in the room when we first all got together, and I'll be eternally grateful for it. And I can't wait to see. I'm so excited to see where it goes and how much more I can be a part of it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Listen, if you could just look into that camera right there, my brother, let everybody know where they can connect with you, please.
Yes. So I know we didn't get to this, but I am a private practice psychotherapist at Peaceful Living Mental Health Counseling in Scarsdale, New York. You can also find my profile on Psychology Today, Sean O'Connor. On Instagram, I have a personal handle that's Sean_OC78. And while we're on the topic, I would like to start building a platform that's more centered around business and my identity as a therapist. And that profile is created, but there's no content on there. But if you want to start giving me a follow, that's Sean O'Connor, all one word, _LMHC.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Listen, I would be remiss not to shout out my brother, Claudio the Voice Valenzuela, if you guys notice. Well, I don't know if they could really notice on that side of things if they're on YouTube. There you go. That's a great shot. But we are in a new booth. So shout out to Sean being the very first
broke it in, man.
guest in the new booth. But CV, what an accomplishment. I am incredibly grateful for you, man, and I'm so excited to see you on this new journey. But we are now located at 500 Summer Street in Stamford, Connecticut, Suite 300. All right? We're laughing here because that is not the address that Claudio gave me, and then wanted to be mad at me when I was not outside and I was 4 blocks away.
I was never mad at you.
But this is a great step, man, in the journey ahead, and I just want to say thank you to you. And we've been in the game now for 5 years now.
5+.
5+ years, man, and I think all the fruits of the labor are really paying off, and I'm just eternally grateful for you, my brother.
Likewise, my brother.
So, guys, without further ado, we're about to wrap up this episode. Sean, I just want to say thank you for showing up the way that you did. And, guys, I want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing the show. Top 10% podcast on Spotify in 2024 and continuing to grow. We'll be a top 5% at the end of 2025.
Yes, sir.
We'll put that in the books. You can shop the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. And until next time, stop snoozing.
Get up and get after it.
Come check the new booth. Sean O'Connor in the building. Fucking guy giving me the wrong address. Thank you guys for tuning in. That's another epi in the books. You can follow us on Instagram at No Snooze Podcast and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, No Snooze. Shop the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. Come on.